West Africa, 1823. The movie begins showing an opening crawl states that the kingdom of Dahomey has crowned a young king, Gezo. Their enemies, the Oyo Empire, have joined with the Mahi people to capture Dahomey villagers and grant them to European slave traders. The Oyo have an advantage with their weapons and horses. The Dahomey have a group of female Amazon warriors, the Agaji, driven by General Nanisca, who are brave and set to protect their kingdom. As the movie begins, we see the Agaji, the group of female warrior, invade a Mahi town, slaughtering the soldiers of Oyo Empire before coming across the captured villagers and freeing them. During the battle, the Agaji moreover lose some of their warrior, and in the morning, they mourn their dead and escort the captives back home. The warriors return home before more Oyo arrive, where Gezo, the king, considers Nanisca to be his most trusted soldier. In the following scene, a young lady, Nawi, is brought to an old man who would marry her. When Nawi doesn't respond to the man, he slaps her, and Nawi reacts by pushing him hard enough for him to fall over. Out of his anger, the old man denies to marry her and leave. For showing disrespectful behavior, Nawi's father gets angry and brings her to the Agaji and offers her to the king, saying, "You will know here what pain feels like." She is at that point taken in by an Agaji warrior, Izogi. In the next scene, Oyo soldiers, led by Common Oba Aid, come over the corpses of their comrades. Seeing the dead bodies, Oba Aid insults his soldiers for letting their fellow officers get murdered by women, and after that they plan their next move against Dahomey. The next day, Gezo addresses his chamber to talk about the Oyo danger. Nanisca moreover brings up the slave exchange and says it casts a dim shadow on their kingdom to be offering off their claim individuals. She proposes that they bargain in gold or palm oil for exchanging. Gezo tells Nanisca to show him how much palm oil they can create before he makes his decision. Later, Nanisca's right-hand lady Amenza addresses the new Agaji recruits, telling them they will fight and die for their kingdom. Then some women leaves, but a large group of women, including Nawi, remain. Izogi at that point tells Nawi to go bathe, so she does, and while bathing, she personally speaks to Nanisca. The next day, the women start their first training. But Nawi does not get it why they start with ropes, feeling she ought to begin with a bladed weapon until Nanisca allows her to try on a wood statue to behead it. But Nawi couldn't make it, as the sword was quite heavy for her. But Nanisca chops the head off with one swing. At night, Izogi talks to Nawi and tells about how her mother permitted men to mishandle her until she fought back. The women then continue training afterward on by running, firing rifles, and learning combat aptitudes. Nawi plays a prank where she sets off a small explosive on one of the statues. She takes the fault for it as Nanisca chastises her for it. Afterward, Izogi tells Nawi about how Nanisca's deeds are considered incredible since she rose up to her positions after being a captive left for dead. Later, Amenza visits Nanisca in her cabin, then tells her that she sees somebody from Nanisca's past coming back for her. Then Nanisca observes as Nawi practices her sword-wielding skill on the statue outside. In the morning, the Oyo arrive at the kingdom's gates for a confrontation with Gezo. When Oba Aid steps forward, Nanisca gets to be shocked, as Oba Aid assaulted her over and over when she was a captive. They arrange tributes and demands 40 Agaji warriors, but Gezo allows only 20. Nanisca at that moment tells Amenza that her vision was true. Then the Portuguese settlers arrive in Africa, led by Captain Santo Ferreira and his companion Malik, the latter whose mother was Dahomey. When Malik sees the captured locals, he feels stunned. Then the Agaji also arrive. Malik joins the scene as the Agaji stand up to the Oyo. Then Nanisca says they will not give them tributes and instead delivers Oba Aid the severed heads of his men. Then a battle breaks out between Nanisca and Gezo. Nanisca tells her Agoiches to run away, but Nawi sees an opportunity to free the captives and goes back to help Nanisca. Then they both escape and jump onto the river and join other Agoiches. At boat, Nanisca chews Nawi for not obeying the rule, but her right hand Amenza secretly tells her that it was she who deviated from the plan, as she was more concerned with slaughtering Oba Aid. Ferreira and Malik meet with Oba Aid and his soldiers as they are talking about plans for the Oyo to team up with other tribes to attack Dahomey and capture more villagers to sell off. Malik shows up awkward with the news. He afterward goes by the water to bathe, where he is found by Nawi. She blames him of being a slaver, but he denies it and tells her about his Dahomey legacy. He gives her a bit of jewelry before she retreats back to the others. The other day, the kingdom holds a small competition where the Agaji trainees go through an obstacles including thorn bushes, climbing a wall, fighting enemies, and at last beheading one of the statues. Nawi comes out as the victor, and Gezo recognizes her skill and ability. Afterward, while tending to Nawi's wounds, Nanisca feels something on the girl's arm. She goes back to her room and is taken after by Amenza, as Nanisca asks her about a child that she had given up long ago, since she is starting to suspect that Nawi can be that child. The following day, Ferreira talks to Gezo about his plans to possibly terminate Dahomey's part in the slave exchange, telling him that his wealth come from the slaves, and without them, his kingdom would be nothing and unprotected. Gezo counters that if the Europeans are no longer of use to him, then they are also unprotected. Izogi senses that Nawi might like Malik after observing them talk cautiously while Ferreira was talking to Gezo. They afterward meet in secret, where Nawi gives Malik a totem to keep him secure. When he says that he has nothing to give her back, she takes one of his knives. Nawi then goes to bathe and encounters Nanisca, who chastises her for sneaking off from Malik. After arguing, Nanisca approaches Nawi and tells her about the child she gave up. She was a product of assault, and Amenza helped Nanisca hide her and give her away. Nanisca remembers cutting the child's left arm and putting a shark tooth in it. Nanisca then cuts into Nawi's arm and pulls out the tooth, confirming that Nawi is undoubtedly her girl, and thus the girl of Oba Aid as well. Nawi then feels despair and leaves in disbelief. The following morning, Nanisca and a few of her warriors keep an eye out on the Oyo camp. They set fire to their gunpowder and cause multiple blasts, terrifying their horses away and leaving them all helpless. The Agaji dispatch an assault, leading to a furious and bloody battle that leaves many Oyo and Agaji dead, and leads to a few of the women, including Izogi and Nawi, to get captured by the Oyos. Later on a wagon heading away, Nawi finds out a woman's ties have come free. She empowers her to roll off the cart and run back to Dahomey and tell about them. While captive, Nawi helps Izogi to fix her broken arm. The young woman returns to Dahomey and informs Nanisca about Nawi and Izogi and the Oyos' plan to strike back against the Agaji. Gezo promotes Nanisca but prohibits her from acting any further, but she and Amenza go behind his back to rescue Nawi and Izogi. Then the European slavers come to buy the captives in Oyo's place. Then Malik sees Nawi and tries to help her. Then Izogi and Nawi start a battle against them, but Izogi is lethally shot and dies in Nawi's arms as she moans for her sister. Nawi is detained, but Malik goes to visit her and tells her how the captives are bound for Britain, and he wishes to insure her. They are implied to form love after. Later Nanisca leads the warriors into the Europeans' camp for an attack. They set fire to their camp and assault the men before freeing the captives. Malik then turns on Ferreira and frees the captives, causing them to drag him into the water, where they beat him and hold his head underwater until he died. Nawi helps Nanisca as she at last goes to face off against Oba Aid. Then a battle begins, where the man attempts to defeat Nanisca, but she overpowers him and skewers him, finally slaughtering him. After end of the battle, everybody returns home, and Nawi parts ways with Malik as they can't stay together. The next morning, the Agaji return home with their captives, and Nanisca is confronted by Gezo. While he acknowledges that she disobeyed his orders, he is appreciative to her for finishing the Oyo Empire and later officially promotes her to the title of Women King. Everybody then cheers for her. Later, Nawi goes to pay tribute to Izogi, and she is joined by Nanisca. She then addresses Nawi as her girl. The two at that point go join the others to dance in celebration, and finally hug each other. So, that's the end of our movie. If you've come this far, make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe my channel. See you later.